A few weeks ago, I was at a gas station, just filling up my car, normal Tuesday, and a guy pulls up next to me in a truck that honestly looked like it belonged in a Fast and Furious movie. Blacked out rims, tinted windows, LED strips running underneath the body. The kind of truck that makes you stop and just stare for a second. So naturally, I'm curious. We start talking. Turns out the guy works at a call center, makes around $48,000 a year. His truck payment is $1,050 a month. Not insurance, not gas, not maintenance, just the payment, every single month. And when I kind of paused at that number, he shrugged and said, "It's basically the same as rent, so why not?" That one line. I kept thinking about it for days, because that comparison, truck payment equals rent, that's not just one guy's logic. That's how millions of Americans are justifying these purchases right now, and it's quietly destroying their financial future. So today I want to break down exactly how this is happening, how a $1,000 car payment became normal, why it feels completely reasonable to the people making it, and what the real numbers look like when you actually sit down and do the math. Because the math is not pretty. Let's start with where things actually stand right now. The average new car payment in the United States has crossed $700 a month. That's the average. Half of all buyers are paying more than that. For trucks and large SUVs, which are by far the most popular vehicles Americans are buying right now, payments above $900 are completely normal. Payments above $1,100 are not uncommon. And in a lot of cases, when buyers roll in leftover debt from a previous vehicle, payments push past $1,300 or even $1,400 a month. Here's what makes that number really hit differently. A lot of Americans pay less than $1,200 for their entire housing, rent, mortgage, everything included. So we are now in a situation where millions of people are spending as much on a vehicle as they spend on the roof over their heads, sometimes more. And these aren't wealthy people who can absorb that without feeling it. These are nurses, teachers, warehouse managers, people in sales, regular people with regular incomes who looked at a monthly payment and told themselves it was manageable. So the real question is, how did $950 a month start feeling manageable to someone making $55,000 a year? The answer starts with loan terms. And this is where the industry gets really clever. 15 years ago, a standard car loan was 3 to 4 years. That was just normal. You bought the car, paid it off, owned it. Simple. That model is basically gone now. Today, 6-year loans are the starting point. 7 years is extremely common. 8-year loans are being offered by mainstream lenders. There are people right now signing 9 and 10-year car loans. 10 years for a car. Straightforward, car prices have roughly doubled over the past 15 years. Wages haven't. So the industry had a problem. How do you keep selling expensive vehicles to people who technically cannot afford them at normal loan terms? You stretch the loan, you shrink the monthly number, and you count on the fact that most buyers are only focused on one thing: whether the payment fits this month's budget. Here's what that looks like in real numbers. A $60,000 truck on a 4-year loan comes out to around $1,400 a month. Most people hear that number and immediately say no. Stretch that exact same loan to 7 years, and the payment drops to around $900. Same truck, same price, same interest rate, just more time. And suddenly, $900 feels workable. But what most buyers never stop to calculate is the total. The extra years of interest quietly adding up. The fact that you're still making payments on a vehicle long after it's lost most of its value. Which brings up something called negative equity. Cars lose value fast, especially in the first few years. A $60,000 truck today might be worth $38,000 3 years from now. But on a 7-year loan, you could still owe $44,000 or $45,000 at that same point. You've been making payments every single month, and you're still underwater. Now you can't sell it without losing money. Can't trade it in without that negative balance following you into the next loan. You're stuck. And what do most people do when they're stuck and want something newer? They go back to the dealership. And the dealership has a very convenient solution. They roll the remaining balance, whatever you still owe on the old vehicle, directly into the new loan. So now the buyer isn't just financing a new truck. They're financing a new truck plus $8,000 or $10,000 they still owe on a car they don't even own anymore. The loan gets bigger, the term stretches out again, the monthly payment lands at a number that feels okay, and the cycle just keeps going. This is how people spend years, sometimes decades, making car payments without ever really getting ahead, always paying, never fully owning. But here's the thing, None of this works without the psychological side of it. And honestly, this part is the most interesting piece of the whole puzzle. At some point, cars stopped being just transportation in American culture. They became identity. Watch any truck commercial and pay attention to what they're actually selling. It's never fuel economy. It's never low maintenance costs or reliability data. It's a guy with calloused hands driving through a river at sunrise with mountains in the background. It's freedom. It's toughness. It's the version of yourself you want to be. And that shift changes the entire financial decision. When you're buying transportation, $900 a month is a lot of money to get from point A to point B. But when you feel like you're buying a piece of your own identity, something that reflects your hard work, your taste, your success, $900 a month suddenly feels almost justified. It stops being an expense and starts feeling like something you've earned the right to have. Dealerships understand this better than most people realize. Their entire sales process is built around it. The moment you hesitate because of price, a trained salesperson redirects the conversation away from total cost and back toward the monthly payment. They adjust the term, they add a product to the loan, they find a number that feels comfortable, and they keep going until you say yes. And once you drive off the lot, something else kicks in that makes the whole thing very hard to reverse. There's a well-known psychological effect where people automatically start justifying decisions they've already made. The buyer who just signed a 7-year loan on a $64,000 truck is not sitting at home that night running a full cost analysis. They're looking at how it sits in the driveway. They're noticing other people noticing it at the traffic light. The emotional reward is immediate and real. The financial damage is spread out over years in a way that feels distant and abstract. Until one day, it doesn't feel abstract anymore. Let's look at what that damage actually adds up to, because I think seeing the full number in one place changes things. Someone buys a $55,000 truck, 7-year loan at around 6% interest, monthly payment around $820. Over the full loan, roughly $69,000 paid for the vehicle itself. Insurance on a truck that size, somewhere between $220 and $270 a month, depending on location and driving record. Over 7 years, that's around $20,000. Fuel at real-world mileage, $370 to $420 a month for most drivers. Over 7 years, another $30,000 or so. Maintenance, tires, and unexpected repairs, conservatively $2,000 a year. That's another $14,000 to $16,000 over the full period. Add it all up. Total cost of owning that truck for 7 years, somewhere between $133,000 and $145,000. And at the end of those 7 years, the truck is worth maybe $14,000 to $16,000. You've spent close to $140,000. You end up with something worth $15,000. Now here's the comparison that really changes the picture. If that same person took that $820 a month and put it into a basic index fund, at average historical market returns, after 7 years, they'd have somewhere around $80,000 to $85,000. Not instead of having a car, just instead of having that particular car. Nobody is saying don't own a vehicle. That's not the point. The point is the gap. The enormous, quietly devastating gap between what most people actually need from a car and what the industry has spent decades convincing them they should want. A reliable used vehicle bought for $15,000 or $18,000, paid off in 2 or 3 years, gets you to work and back just as well as a $60,000 truck does. Every single day. The experience is different, sure. The way people look at you is different. But where you end up financially, 10, 15, 20 years from now, that gap is enormous. The people who quietly build real financial security over their working lives are almost always the ones who made the boring vehicle decision, who bought enough car to get where they needed to go, and put the rest somewhere it could actually grow over time. The truck at the gas station looks impressive, but impressive and financially stable are two very different things. And sometimes the smartest person in that parking lot is the one driving the car nobody looks at twice.